If you're considering getting a Apple iPhone for your child, you've got to know how to protect them. Got to know how to set up limits. Many of these things that you're going to find are going to be built into the iPhone. Because many parents don't realize that these devices already come with these things, they're intimidated by thinking that we can't give a child an iPhone because they're going to have unrestricted access to the internet. That's certainly not the case. There are many things you can do to protect your child and to monitor the things that they're doing. I'll cover a few of the things that we've been doing with our family. First and foremost, you need to set up your Apple iCloud family. That's simply found by going into the settings, clicking your Apple ID, and then going to family sharing. Here you can add additional members, and that then allows everyone in your family to have access to all of your purchases, any subscriptions you have. You can find them through the Find My app, and of course, control all the screen time and monitor that from your own device. These wonderful features allow you to control things like asking to buy. So if they want to buy something on the Apple Store or any other program, it'll be sent to you. If there's an in-app purchase, if they go into iTunes and they want to buy something, the notification will be sent to you as the parent and you can approve or disapprove. Now, it's important to notate that they can go into the App Store, they can look at your previously purchased apps, and they can automatically download it without asking permission. So there is that limitation there. Built into the settings menu is going to be the screen time. Now, this is actually meant for you individually, so you can actually see your own screen time usage and maybe set your own limits so that you aren't maybe using social media as much. But you can also do it for your children, and you can set it up here for all of your children and all the things that you might want to do. It can control things like downtime, app limits, and so forth. This is also set with a separate password. So not the passcode that gets into their phone, you can set up an entirely different passcode so that they don't even have access to this. They can't make any changes without that passcode. It allows you to see reporting as to how much time is being spent on a certain app on a day or across a week. You can look at categories, how many times phones are being picked up, and how many notifications are being sent to the phone as well. Now, one of the first things to look at is going to be downtime. When do you want the phone to shut off? We have it set up on our kids at 8:45 every night, unblocked until 6 a.m. That way, if they even wanted to use it at night, they couldn't because it's going to block everything and say you can't get on without the passcode, which we had already set up. The only disadvantage is you can only set up one single downtime. Going on over to the app limits, this allows you to control how much time is being spent on an individual app or a group like games or entertainment. It's great being able to do all this. You can go in and block it on certain days, on every day, and you can block at the end of the limit. You have to make sure you turn that on. Otherwise, all it's going to show is, hey, you've reached your limit, and then they can dismiss it. Instead, we want it to be blocked at the end of that time. However, there's a nice little bug that Apple doesn't really realize yet, or they haven't fixed it yet, and it allows them to click on a button when that comes up that says, 1 more minute, please, and they can continually push it, and it'll not block it, and they can continually do that, which is certainly not fair. Also, anytime someone downloads an app, it's automatically going to be allowed to play, and it doesn't go into these app limits until the phone is restarted, or it's a new day, in which case it'll add it to the category. So there's that limitation as well. Communications limits is something new that allows you to control who your child can contact, either phone or text. And that's both for outgoing and incoming through phone, FaceTime messages, and so forth. So you can manage their own contacts. You can allow them to manage the contacts. It allows you to set up during certain times or during certain limits that they can communicate with them. We haven't quite found this to be a perfect use. We find it actually to be more buggy than not, and we almost have it turned off for most of our kids in what's being allowed because we find that they're not getting messages from, say, a church leader because they aren't added to their phone, which can be pretty a significant problem if we don't have that set up correctly. So I think we have it dialed in now, but it took a little bit of work to go through. What apps are you going to always allow? Well, there's going to be things like maps, messages, FaceTime, maybe even the calculator that you always want to allow. There's no reason to be blocked, which is why some people are saying we shouldn't be using the word screen time anymore because look at what we did during COVID. We were all on our screens. And then we have limitations afterwards on what they can do when they just spent 8 hours in front of a screen. Instead, what are we trying to limit? Well, maybe game time or entertainment time. There are certain things that we want them to have access to, like a calendar. In fact, on an Apple family calendar, you can share your calendar across multiple devices. So we want them to have access to those types of things constantly and not be blocked. Content restrictions is going to be the primary thing you're going to use screen time limits for. Here, you can say what they're allowed to do on their phone. Can they reset their password? Can they change any of those features and those things within the settings themselves? Can they share their location? Well, we want them to, because we want to be able to see where they're at, and we don't want them to change those types of things. Getting into what apps are allowed, what they can purchase in the iTunes or App Store, and then what content they can view and come across. Speaking of that additional content, you can control when they go into things like the Apple TV app or iTunes and go in what can they even show up in their search results? What can they buy? These are the types of things that we want to limit a little bit so they can't get on, including any web content. Now, I'll notate on that web content, it is not a very good filter. You either need to have something else blocking it or turn it off entirely. We choose to not have Safari on for any of our children, that if they want to use the internet on any web device, they are going to do it on the family computer in front of all of us. We find that there is no reason for our child to have restricted or unrestricted access to the internet on their phone when they can do anything that they might need on the family computer. Now, these restrictions are great, but we find there's some limitations, so we actually went to a third party to help out with a few of these things. It's called OurPact. I tested a lot of different ones. This is the one I found would work best. Now, it's a free app that you can download and you can use, and it has some great features to work with. It allows you to block things on a single device. It allows you to set up a schedule, and it allows you to block certain apps. But that's about where it stops. We pay an additional $6.99 a month to add on a few more kids, to add on a couple of their schedules and some other features as well. We find this is money well spent because where Apple screen time lacks, this app makes up for everything else. And for us, we want to have the control that we want as a family with our children. One of those things is going to be schedules. On the free version, you can only set up a single schedule. Just like with Apple screen time downtime, it only allows you to set up one thing. Here I can go into many things: bedtime, school, anything like that. And then it's going to block those apps that we choose to block completely. We can choose which apps are going to be allowed, which ones are going to go on a schedule, and which ones might be blocked entirely. So if in a schedule it says this is blocked, that would be things that's under the little clock icon right there. So here we've got Among Us and Ark, which is going to be blocked, and they can't use it when it's blocked by the school time. You can also go in and you can block it at any given time. These allowance features allow you to be able to dictate how much time they're going to spend. So that's fantastic. That allows them to set up individual schedules, when they can use those. Now, unfortunately, the only limitation with this is that there is a single schedule, and that's it. So which games or which entertainment apps do you want them to have unlimited access to, but only in a certain time frame? So unfortunately, it blocks it for our children for 30 minutes, and that's going to include many things. We wish we could break it down further, but that's as good as it's going to get for right now. And it allows you to then go in and block or allow additional time. You can choose to a few minutes, couple hours, or even until midnight if you want them to have access to something on, say, a road trip for the rest of the time period. Lastly, you're going to come across restrictions. The restrictions are going to be those things that you're able to do within Apple Screen Time, but these also have some additional things like disable factory reset or app removal entirely, so they can't even delete anything or even add anything to there. These are the types of things that don't show up there, but allow you to control a little bit further. So what we've learned with these restrictions and those that come across with Apple Screen Time, you can do a lot to manage your child's screen time limits. It allows you to be able to really determine how you want things to be done. There's no reason to be intimidated because these features are, many of them, built right into the phone. There's no reason why we shouldn't give a child a phone because it allows them to learn how to use it under proper guidance. There are certain rules that we can set in place and we can slowly let loose on those things. In fact, we found that devices like this allow us to have greater control over our children's screen time and the limits they can have with a phone versus, say, a flip phone, which you really can't do anything on, and thus no limitations can be set either. This allows our children to grow, to understand how to use a smartphone, and be ready for that time which they may enter into school and, of course, an adult life where it'll be a big part of our life, and we can ease them into that.